for the February 28th, 2026. We will start this off with a prayer from Mr. Segmiller and the pledge by Commissioner Davis.
Heavenly Father, we're thankful to be gathered tonight and acknowledge the great blessing and opportunity we have to be involved with our local government and the decisions that affect our communities. We ask that Thou wilt watch over our meeting and guide those who speak and those who think and need to make decisions. And we say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda for tonight is the approval of tonight's agenda.
This is Commissioner Davis. I move that we approve tonight's agenda for Planning Commission.
Commissioner Ure, second.
I have a first by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Ure. All in favor? Aye. Item 2 is the approval of the Planning Commission minute meetings from February 4th, 2026.
This is Commissioner Ure. I move that we approve the Planning Commission minutes from February 4th, 2026.
Seconds.
First from Commissioner Ure and a second from Commissioner Davis. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 3 is declaration of abstentions or conflicts. Does anyone have any with tonight's? All right, jump right in to item 4. Item 4A is G-25-07, a request to amend the general plan land use map from the VLD to LD / medium density, low density to CCOM, and non-com to CCOM, located at Antigua Lane and George Washington Boulevard. We'll turn the time over to Eldon on this.
Thank you, Commissioners. Again, I just want to reiterate this is a general plan amendment, which is a high-level comprehensive roadmap that guides land use decisions in regards to zoning, transportation, and resource management providers for the city. You know, we haven't seen any specific site plans or details as to how this land is going to develop out, but just a very high level general plan is what we're looking at tonight. So we'll dig in here. You mentioned some terms there, and I don't want to overlook those abbreviations. The public understands those. You know, the VLD is very low density, the LD is low density, the CCOM is community commercial, and the NCOM is neighborhood commercial. You can see the map here. This is the location that we're looking at. It's approximately 17.94 acres and is broken down as follows here. We'll dig in. This next exhibit, the general plan currently sits. The red on the bottom half is neighborhood commercial, and then that yellow area is low density, and then the green is the very low density areas. You can see here neighborhood commercial currently exists on the property, which is this bottom red area. The applicant's proposing to change this existing neighborhood commercial to community commercial, which is approximately 5.38 acres, and then expand this to the north of approximately 4.3 acres for a total commercial of 9.76 acres. So that's kind of the first component to this general plan. And then looking to the north in this yellow area, this black line here is the north end of the proposed commercial. approximately 1.43 acres of low density remaining. They're asking to change that to medium density and extend that medium density to the north for a total area of 3.828. And then lastly is this green area on the north end. They're proposing or asking to change that from very low density to low density. And this is what their proposal includes. You got the red proposed commercial, 9.76 acres, medium density of approximately 3.82, and then low density of 4.36. Staff has reviewed the requested change and is comfortable with the proposal as it feathers the existing uses there of very low density and low density to the proposed commercial there. Furthermore, Antigua Lane will help transition between the existing residential and commercial uses. Staff recommends the Planning Commission recommend approval of G-25-07 as outlined and discussed in these exhibits on to City Council. And that concludes staff report. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Eldon, on the community commercial, what are some of the things that can go in? What's the difference between the community commercial and the neighborhood commercial?
So community commercial, neighborhood commercial includes the AP and C1 uses, and is a community commercial feel, which is the existing NCOM. We can see here how it sits today. The NCOM includes the AP and the C1 uses. They're asking it to go to the CCOM, which is more of a service-based commercial. It includes outdoor sales, and just a little bit heavier type of commercial. Our commercial uses are broken into a C1, which is a very light use indoors. And we go to a C2, which is a service-based commercial, and then a C3 use, which is more of a regional draw, big box commercial. And they're proposing to go to the CCOM, which includes up to the C2 use.
But not the C3.
Correct.
So in the C2, we might see a service station or a quick serve restaurant.
Correct, yeah, service stations are an allowed use in the C1. C2 would allow them to expand to outdoor sales, little outdoor storage areas in that regard.
And then the medium density is basically how many units per, we're not going to see condos or townhomes or apartments in the medium density, correct?
It'd be an option. Medium density includes 4.5 to 6 units per acre, includes the R2, the R16, and the R18 zoning, which is a 6,000 square foot or an 8,000 square foot lot size. But more so looking to the density count, 4.5 to 6 units per acre, whereas the very low density is 1.5 to 2.5 units per acre.
Okay.
Commissioner Eldon, could you provide some more examples of the types of commercial uses we'd see under CCOM?
You bet, great question. I can just roll through the use regulations if you'd like. We can go through that. It includes auditorium, conference rooms, museum, theaters, libraries, and community social centers, mobile food vendor, repairing, renovating, painting, and cleaning of goods, merchandise, and equipment where all operations are conducted entirely within a fully enclosed building. And then retail and/or wholesale and/or rental of goods, merchandise, and equipment, which may include storage and display outside itself. And then we get into some conditional use permit approvals, hospital, motel, motor vehicle, trailer, camper, recreational vehicle sales agencies.
What kinds of things might we see under CCOM that we would not see under NCOM already?
The hospital, hotel, or motel are not in those type of uses. The motor vehicle, trailer, camper, and recreational vehicle sales agency. Outdoor or sales as well.
Some of those would require conditional use permits as well.
Would, correct.
Okay. And one other question for you. You used the phrase feathering the density. It sounds like that may be a best practice. Can you explain that in this situation? Like, what did you mean by that?
Great question. We'll zoom in here. So you can see this light, or the green area is very low density. It currently then transitions into the low density, and then that low density bumps up to the neighborhood commercial. Typically, we like to transition these general plans no greater than one step in density. So what they're proposing meets that criteria as this very low density. They are then transitioning to the low density, which is not greater than one step in transition. Steps down density, which is another feather, which will then.
So the feathering means we don't want one use that's in stark contrast to another use. For example, we wouldn't want very low density right next to high density. They don't vibe well. We try to create a little barrier between them. And is there a reason why we go to a higher level of density next to commercial rather than having low density next to commercial? Why are we feathering it that way as well?
Yeah, those fall under best practices. Higher density and commercial typically fall near arterial roadways, high trafficked areas, higher density next to commercial, which creates that buffer transition into those larger lot areas.
Oh, so it's like where we place commercial where there's already large roadways and that it can handle a lot of traffic, and those happen to be the same conditions we're looking for in lower density. So that's why it tends to go, because it's not just here, but it's all throughout town, where it's like commercial and then higher density, and then it slowly gets to lower density as it steps out of those commercial arteries. Is that it?
Yes, typically that's how we like to see it. There are variances, outliers with that and circumstances, but typically that's how it works, yes.
Do you guys have any other questions? Do you have any questions for Eldon? Okay, we will open this up to public hearing. We did get the ones that were turned in online, that were submitted online. We've all had the chance to read them and go through them. So if any of you would like to get up and speak to this, I'm sure some of you are, because there's only one item on the agenda and there's a lot of people here. When you come up to speak, please state your name in the mic and try to keep it as close as you can to the 3 minutes, and try not to just keep repeating the same thing. I mean, it kind of wears on us up here and doesn't help us make our decision any easier. So at this point, if anyone would like to come up and speak, please do so.
Am I okay to speak or are just the comments online?
As long as you're not reiterating the whole thing, that's fine. If you have something else to say online, that you said online, that's fine.
Good evening. My name's Chris Kurz. I live at 1475 Majestic Drive. That's the property at the northmost portion there of that image that we're looking at before it becomes a 8-acre parcel. I'm not going to reiterate what I put in writing. You've all read it. You understand my position on it. But what I do want to look at is if we're looking at this map here just from a common sense perspective as a developer and as a resident of Washington City and somebody that lives here, what you have right now, barring what's outlined, is you have your very low density and you have your low density. So you have a combination of 1-acre parcels and you have half-acre residential parcels. If you look at the outline of the streets, the layout of how the community is currently built and what it appears to have been intended as, this was never intended to be changed from the original general plan. It's obvious looking at the local street maps there that it was meant to be continued as the half-acre parcels in the lower half and possibly 1-acre parcels towards the upper third of that image there. Through this proposal by the developer, we're saying that we're going to buffer from very low density to medium density to neighborhood commercial to community commercial. But in essence, we're not, because if you look at the home there on the corner of Antigua and Galilee, that's on a half-acre lot, and according to this developer, they want to butt that right next to this community commercial that's being proposed. So that's completely against what the general plan calls for as far as that buffering that you were discussing earlier. The other issue is that, and this goes for the other homes that are along Antigua as well, the other issue is that the city has already designated neighborhood commercial parcels on 3650 at the intersection of Route 7 of SR 7 and at the intersection of Washington Fields Road. These developers coming in, looking at the general plan, understand that there are areas that were designated to service the community for commercial businesses, whether it be a grocery store, whatever the neighborhood commercial definition fits. That's already been established by the city of Washington to service the region. So to expand upon that and then to say at a greater level, now we're going to put community commercial and the possibility of multi-story buildings and larger businesses, whatnot, butting right next up to very low density and low density properties. Imagine what that's going to do. Imagine how it's going to impact the neighborhood. Imagine how it's going to impact the property values of those properties there. People that have been living there, like ourselves, 7 years, but in a home that was built 2 decades ago. So 20 years ago, when Majestic Drive was developed, and you have 1-acre homes going through there, it was considered a premier neighborhood for Washington City. Now we're going to say, well, we're going to put community commercial within several hundred feet of this premier neighborhood as was originally designated. That's not fair to the residents, not fair to the people who did their due diligence, read the general plan, and purchased there with the understanding that, yes, it would be developed as residential, but certainly not community commercial, and likely not neighborhood commercial butting that close to the existing properties, given that the general plan already called for neighborhood commercial at the intersection of SR 7 and Washington Fields Road. In my opinion, obviously I'm against this, but in my opinion, this is an excessive change of the general plan. The negative impact upon the existing neighborhood is going to be detrimental. It will be forever impactful to the residents there. If you're familiar with the neighborhood, it's a very family-oriented neighborhood. A lot of kids there, kids playing in the streets on the regular basis all year round. You introduce community commercial there, you're going to bring that traffic into the neighborhood. These cars are going to be cutting up Majestic, trying to get through there. You're going to have traffic not knowing where they're going. They're trying to find the businesses, wandering down these back roads that were never designed to handle the level of traffic that community commercial is going to bring. So now the residents are going to deal with that. So the quality of life is going to go down. The impact on, again, the home values, look at, again, Galilee Way and Antigua, you've got homes that are half-acre parcels that are now going to be butting up to community commercial. What's going to happen to the value of those homes where these people have lived for years now with the anticipation that, sure, I'm going to have a neighbor, but I'm going to have a like neighbor. I'm not going to be staring at a parking lot and a strip mall. We have places and open space throughout Washington City that we can put these sort of businesses. We don't need to butt them right up to existing established neighborhoods that are already very low density and low density. It's improper. It doesn't make sense according to your own general plan, but just from a common sense perspective, looking at this map as a layman, you say to yourself, well, no, why would you do it that way? You would put it closer to SR 7 If you want to make that neighborhood, if you want to take that neighborhood parcel and say, well, we're going to make a portion of that community commercial to fit that need there, by SR7, this makes sense. But butting it up to existing very low density and low density homes, it makes no sense. So that's all. Thanks for taking the time to hear me. All right.
Yes, if nobody else, then I will. My name is Frank Linhart, and I live on Galilee Way. I've spent many years sitting in your seat over in Hurricane on the Planning Commission and mayor in Apple Valley. One of the things I always did when we were presented and we did general plans and requests for zone changes was I tried to put myself in the neighbor's shoes. If I was living, the one owning property on Galilee Way or right there, would I want commercial encroaching on and being my neighbor? And the answer is I certainly wouldn't. I have not much issue with them if they change from very low to low, and the medium density should be adjacent to the current commercial. Because like you said earlier, you need a buffer between the commercial and the low density residential. So it makes sense to do that. So a little tweak to this plan, leave the commercial where it is, put the medium density next to it, and now it's still as it was before, all residential neighborhood with people mingling with their neighbors. And you don't risk having a big box right next to you. And we appreciate you considering that. Thank you.
Hi, how you doing? I'm Carrie Boone. I live right next to the red area on Mountain Ridge Drive. And I appreciate you taking time to listen. I really appreciate your questions. That helped clarify some of the terminology for me. And I appreciate the idea of feathering. What I notice as you're explaining this plan is that the feathering does a great job going north to south, but I don't see that happening moving east to west, where our home is directly next to, in low density, directly next to red, the commercial. So I don't think that the shift in changing the zoning for that area is consistent with that approach to buffering or graduating the zoning. All the things that have been said with just it being a family community, it's not what we all bought into. We've already had, while I know this is the issue we're talking about tonight, I think that context is important and that there have already been zone changes around us. So what the general plan looked like when we moved in 5 years ago is different, very different now, especially as you start putting more red just all around our house. So I really appreciate the previous comment by Frank of, you know, would you want this in your neighborhood? Would you want a commercial zone butting right up to your house? I certainly don't. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Brandon Sigurd. That's my house right above the yellow box there, the one singular half-acre plot there. Looking at this feathering, I guess, as you call it, really, to me, just kind of looks like a joke. I mean, it's not even half of a block between each little layer there. I mean, to go from such a short space, I mean, I go on that walk every day down Antigua. I mean, it's like 30 seconds to get from one end to the other, to go from all of our community houses up there, that we have a good neighborhood, to suddenly commercial where we could have a Burger King drive-through right there. That, and also pretty much catty corner across the street, you know, we have the Wheels Park going in there. I mean, it's kids everywhere. I can see this making sense, again, against the 7, but right here in the middle of this neighborhood, it's a lot of people in our neighborhood are very upset at seeing this. So I'm just echoing that. Thanks.
My name is Michael Fisher. I live on Galilee Way. I think one of my big things is it's very ambiguous saying that there's a developer that's applied for a zoning change, but yet there's no proposal as to what they want to build. Seems like there's a lot of vagueness there. There is a lot of children in our neighborhood. It's a family neighborhood. We all know each other. You know, we look out for one another. This is going to create issues with traffic in our neighborhood. These streets weren't designed for that. They were designed as a residential, low-density neighborhood, you know, with 2.5 to 3 parcels per acre, not 6 to 8 to 12. So I feel that, you know, it should not be allowed to be changed to commercial as far as next to a existing residential neighborhood, due to the fact of traffic, noise, and again, just the whole idea of young families that purchased homes there with the intent of having a nice community area to raise their children in that's safe, secure. They don't have to worry about trucks, cars, traffic, people that are lost, shortcutting into Lynn's or Smith's because, oh, I don't want to go over to George Washington because it's inconvenient. So I feel that opening up Antigua Lane to Galilee, Majestic is a huge disservice to those of us that do own homes in the neighborhood. Our property values will be negatively impacted. I think we all know that. So that's my opinion. Thank you very much.
James Leonard, I'm on Galilee Way also. It's going to be pretty hard to, I pretty much have to echo everything everybody else has said. Devaluation of the property. Once you open this up to medium density, which you now show as up to 6 units per acre, you're going to, and the commercial, and you open up Antigua, which you will do, you're going to open up shortcutting traffic right down Galilee and clear down to Washington Fields. They're going to shortcut Majestic and through Galilee, and those are wide streets now. We already have a speed problem there. They're 25-mile-an-hour speed zones, and it's not being enforced. The average is running 35 and 40 miles an hour through there. Kids play out constantly. It's just not fair to what are now million-dollar homes to butt this up against them. That's my opinion, and I'm pretty sure that it's pretty much the opinion of the whole neighborhood. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Taylor. I live on Noble Drive, and just want to say I'm pretty much against any of the changes to the general plan on this, except, you know, maybe convince me to put a little bit of commercial zone right on to George Washington, but I would say more buffer east to west, like somebody stated before. Otherwise, I could just see so much traffic being sent into the neighborhood, and it would just be bad news. We've already had a lot of changes. We don't need more. Wouldn't be good for anybody. We don't need to get a kid hit on a bike or a skateboard or something. Thank you.
My name's Tyler Elias, and I live on the corner of Majestic and Noble. Want to just voice my opinion in opposition to the proposed changes. I think the existing outline better serves the community. want to just voice my concern about the current infrastructure on Majestic. My neighbors and I all know how crazy it is just trying to drive to work at 8:30 when everyone's dropping off their kids or picking up kids after school. And the proposed changes would compound the problems there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, my name is Garrett Jennings. I live on Majestic Drive there at the intersection with Imperial Lane. And I just wanted to say that I am in opposition to this, and I'm certain that basically everyone in the community is against it. And I don't know if we need to get signatures or something to prove that, but I feel like the value of this land that they're proposing to change can be attributed to this community, and they want to change it so that they can build more units per acre or businesses and make it more valuable for them, while also making the value of all the homes in the community less. And so I just don't think that that is fair, because the value of the land is kind of the existing development, due to the existing development and the people who've bought in 20, 30 years ago. And so, yeah, I just think that that is not cool. So, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no one else, I'll close the public hearing, but if anyone else wants to, please.
So I agree, my name is Grant Halverson, I live on Majestic. So I agree with what everyone said, but maybe I have a different question that maybe you can't answer. I'm very skeptical of any developer, specifically with the developer that finished what's in yellow there, the existing low density, with all the clay that all those houses are built on and all the lawsuits that are going on with those houses are built on, me included, and the city taking no responsibility for approving any development there, or developers taking responsibility for building on top of clay. And by continuing to develop through there, that whole area is full of clay. You can see it when you walk over the top of it, and have no trust that a developer will develop it properly, which will then leave all the low density, the medium density homeowners in a similar situation to a significant amount of people in the existing low density who are there today, with multiple lawsuits happening right now against builders of those homes, and our property values have already been destroyed, and don't want to see that happen to those who are purchasing in the low development, in the medium development, on top of the clay either, without trusting that developers are just going to do it as cheaply, as quickly as possible, with the city approving it and leaving the homeowner to deal with homes that are literally ripping themselves apart.
Thank you.
I will just clarify that the city doesn't administer the composition of soils under private land projects. The city does require development to employ and hire engineers and geotechnical experts, and it's on the advice of those experts that development happens, but the city doesn't have a soils inspector, for example, or a soils composition inspector. That's something that's in the purview of development world and their engineers.
Okay, if no one else would like to speak, we're going to close the public hearing portion of this. And do we have any more questions? I'm sure.
I might just say this one is interesting, because if you pan out on the general plan, larger swaths of general plan designated areas kind of move and all end up in this point. And there's kind of a pinch point that exists now, which is part of what I think you're addressing. It is interesting to note that 10 years ago, maybe even a little less than 10 years ago, the main route to the interchange was intended to be Majestic. So Majestic was intended to be the throughfare all the way to the intersection at Warner Valley. And then that was changed 7, 8, 10 years ago to be the George Washington Boulevard Road that exists today. And so in a way that the rerouting of that throughfare has also impacted this kind of general planning discussion. And you see that a little bit in the pinch point that's created there.
My question would be, who is the developer? And what-
Sir, we're done with public comment right now.
Oh, I
We
apologize.
don't know who. We just have someone asking. There's no development coming yet. They just asked to change the general plan. We still have other steps to go through before we know anything that's going to happen.
The applicant's name is a matter of public record. The name is Lance Richards. Mr. Richards is likely an expert engineer or something that made application on behalf of the owner, that is Capital Funding LTD.
Do you guys have,
Is the applicant present?
The applicant is, yes.
do you guys have any questions for him?
Yeah. If you would, please.
Jason Smith with the Rosenberg Associates, representing the applicant. He couldn't be here tonight, so.
Commissioner Davis, just generally speaking, if you could just kind of walk us through the purpose of the request and the benefit.
Well, definitely, the public's brought up some great things, and this is, like Attorney Segmiller said, this is kind of comes together. If you bring up the transportation plan, if you look at it, the proposed, this is the first full intersection from SR7 will be the not Antigua, but the other side of the east side of the property is the first full intersection from SR7. So it's kind of coming together there, and the goal is just to get a transition point. I know we've talked about leaving it the same, as it was mentioned, and they say, well, if we leave it the same, well, if we build 30-acre lots like the same, then we still deal with the problem with the people that just got there. They still deal with the problem with the transition as we keep moving. So at some point, there has to be a transition. We feel that where this is the first major intersection, that this is the point to start that transition. The property owner owns the property directly to the west of the commercial that he plans to do residential on, the extension of Rolling Ridge. He owns that property. It's planned to maintain residential there at low density. And there is that corner up to where the house is for a commercial that catty corner they do touch, but there is a road in between it, and he needed, for some of the things that he's been in talks with, I don't know if they've moved forward or not, but he needed a little more depth on the commercial, and that's the reason that he's asking for that. I don't foresee any major changes in the residential. We're just trying to make more of a transition. Transition there is what the goal is. Just start the transition.
Jason, would the plan be to have Rolling Ridge end in a cul-de-sac or take it through?
They've looked at both options. I don't know if they've decided either way. There's benefits for both, for sure. If you make it a cul-de-sac, then it's backyards if they go through it.
And I guess I'm referring to the piece that your client owns west of this project. Would that end in a cul-de-sac, or would it carry through into your proposed community commercial?
Well, he hasn't made a decision on that yet. It's real conceptual.
In addressing
so
the
we've looked at both
comments
ways.
of everybody, a lot of them are worried about the other residential and so forth, but I think that the main impact is going to be the rolling ridge where it currently lines up. If that were a through road, it would go straight into the community commercial, and that would be the problem road.
Yeah, and commercial-wise, we're anticipating a good 90%, majority of the traffic is going to go to George Washington Boulevard. Because that's where the traffic is meant to go. And that's a arterial road. That's going to be the frontage. That's going to be where the traffic will go. But there hasn't been a decision. To be honest with you, we can do a cul-de-sac. The depth is the only concern, is the length that they have from that intersection, if it's long enough, would be the.
I have lots of other issues with it, but that in particular, let's say if it went forward and went to zoning and everything eventually, as you proposed, that would be a deal breaker, 100%, that you can't have, that's got to be a cul-de-sac no matter what. I mean, that's like the worst part of this whole thing is
Rolling Ridge. Rolling Ridge should come down and hook into Mountain Ridge.
Yeah, it could loop back around and just to punch it through into the community commercial. That's like the absolute worst part of this proposal.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's plenty of other issues with it, but that's the worst part of it. And that would impact these residents way more than any of the other stuff in this proposal.
Well, and
which I mean, you stood there in their shoes arguing the exact same thing for a lot less than this. So I know you know what I'm talking about.
I disagree on that, but I understand what you're saying. Yeah, this parcel is actually not on isn't part of this application.
No, I know. I'm just saying.
That's understood, but that's part of the concern.
I'm just saying, I would say 100% no.
Right. So, I mean, I guess at the time of, I understand that. At the time they move forward on that, then we can, I mean, that's noted. And I think a cul-de-sac is warranted there. I don't disagree with you.
But you're representing at this point that they plan on doing residential?
Yes, on that
of
location, yes.
Of what's on the agenda tonight?
Sorry.
Everything to the west of what's on the agenda tonight, those parcels there. I believe that's to the west.
So they only own the one. They don't own the one along at
They
George
only own
Washington.
the upper one. They don't
lower
own the
one.
front. They don't own the lower one.
Mhm. But yeah, that is to be planned to be residential. It's zoned residential, and they haven't made any application to change it, so.
Yeah, that lower piece on George Washington has not been general planned yet. It just says not added. For some reason. It's a big hole.
I've got a question to build on that. Eldon, can you go to the other map that shows the proposed with the colored outlines? Can you go to the one that has the satellite view and we can see the homes? Yeah, like that. Commercial line here is right kind of below Galilee Way, right? Galilee Way. It's like right there. Why are we putting the proposed line there instead of dropping it down to below that home right there, so that we don't have commercial right next door to that particular home and the line is only moving a little? That seems odd to me, to have the line right where they did it. Why is the line there?
Just the distance from the right of way is what he requested. He just said he needed the 650 feet or to the depth is what's driving that line.
That makes sense. I still think we should move that. I mean, that's one thing that to me immediately makes sense, is to boost, to kind of like decrease the size of commercial at least enough to where you don't have that one residential home. Even though I know we're going to do residential down there, we have time to kind of think about that and how to buffer that and how to like move it into the commercial. So anyway, that was just one of the thoughts I had. And then I have a question about what's east of this on the general plan, Eldon. So tell me your name again.
Jason?
Jason. So what Jason was saying is that you have to have a transition point somewhere. Was that implying that east of that we're going to go to lower density in the general plan?
It's not determined. We've got existing neighborhood.
Density is what it.
Correct, yes. Typically, that's what we would see there as we move closer to the Southern Parkway.
Yeah. And what are your thoughts as staff about that transition point versus a transition point that's further east, closer to the artery?
Yeah, that's what we're discussing tonight, you know, what makes sense. If you take the layer off here, you can see Antigua Lane it's a natural buffer transition point. It makes sense to make the transition at Antigua, not knowing when or where other future roadways will run north to south there.
So the idea is that Antigua would handle the traffic and pull it down to, I guess, Galilee or George Washington, hopefully George Washington.
Majority of traffic's going to flow to George Washington that's visiting the commercial. I mean, they want to be in and out of there as quick as they can, unless it's neighbors in that area that are coming from the north or the west to that area.
Can you pull the transportation line up there? Because there is a collector road that's running north to south, that's planned north to south on that other, on the east side of the parcel.
So what are we looking at there?
Yeah, so that blue line is the east side of the
So that's the
property.
transportation master plan. And so that's showing, it doesn't show the internal roads, like Antigua's never been a master planned road, even though it's generally understood that it needs to come and connect into George Washington Boulevard to provide just fluidity of flow. But the blue one is a future road that the city, based on this plan, would exact from whatever they do on its side would need to produce and provide that right of way as well.
And that's a 66-foot road, not a 50-foot road. That's the standard residential.
Okay, so if I'm understanding this right, we've got currently very low density that feathers into low density, that feathers into NCOM. And what we're, today, that's what is currently how it's zoned and planned, thanks. And what we're talking about doing is increasing the density on the two residential and expanding the commercial. And the question is, and just as a big picture general plan, eventually we are going to increase the density to the east. And that big blue road, that dotted blue line right there is creating a big road, a big artery that is going to make it possible to funnel the traffic and the growth that's going to come, because whether we want it or not, the growth is coming. And so that will help us channel that. And so at some point, there's going to have to be a transition between these very low density and low density to low density and medium density. That transition is going to happen because of the future plan and that artery that's coming in right there. So the question is, do we have that transition point this far west, or do we move it further east? And what I hear you saying is, looking at that, you think that this is a good spot to make that transition point, using Antigua Lane as kind of like the demarcation.
Yes, you're correct. Yeah, the transition there, it's got to occur somewhere. Attorney Segmiller mentioned that. This is the funnel point within this area. And what do we feel comfortable with? Staff supports the proposal as they presented here.
I think the other important detail is, in our system in this state, and really in our country, private landowners are allowed the property right of submitting an application to influence where those lines end up being drawn on their parcel or not, right? And so that's part of it through tonight is the public assembly is trying to figure out application is one meets the best interest of the city and the.
Can you pull up the current general plan overlay on this? Up there. So I agree with Jason that this is the transition point. I mean, that's obvious because you have the road there, which is why we've got neighborhood commercial. It just didn't feather very well from there up. You know, it just went from neighborhood commercial to low density. Should have been, when it was general plan, there should have been a medium density somewhere there, you know, at some point. And I'm fine with that. And changing from very low density to low density, most people would have no clue you even did it. You wouldn't even know. And I know that most people in the crowd would disagree with me on this, but most of the time you wouldn't notice it that much going to medium density either. It's not as big of a change. The biggest change here is the commercial piece, and not even the commercial per se. It's my problem is how far it's pushing up in. I think it does need to be feathered. Personally, I think if you want to change the neighborhood commercial to community commercial, I think that's fine. But I think where it's currently sits as neighborhood commercial is the correct line to put it at, based on where the interior roads and everything are. I mean, you have, Rocky Ridge Road is there where it's currently, zoned low density on that piece. That would be your feathering point. And I mean, Rocky Ridge Road should be the medium density portion. Because you've got a road there, you've got houses on either side. And then the next road up, Galilee Way, that should be the low density, portion of that. And it just feathers on it because when you're developing everything like phases and stuff, you phase it by street. You got a street and you got houses on either side of the street, right? And so your line to kind of break those up is not the street, it's between back houses. So I don't think this is appropriate to push the commercial up into the middle of the neighborhood. I think it is appropriate to do feathering and add some medium density in there. I think the place to do it is right above the existing neighborhood commercial. And if you want to go community commercial instead of neighborhood commercial, I mean, that's fine. But I think the way that this is drawn, I would say a no to it.
If they cul-de-sac Rolling Ridge, sorry, my eyes are not. If they cul-de-sac Rolling Ridge, are you still opposed to it?
I think no matter what it gets zoned, I mean, I think Rolling Ridge should not go into the commercial period either way. But I think Rolling Ridge is your best road to turn medium down. Wants more space in that, and so that might be an issue for that. But as far as feathering and how it impacts the neighborhood, that's the more logical way to do that. I understand there might be constraints on what he wants to put on there, but anyway.
This is Commissioner Davis, just to weigh in, based on what I've read and heard, I mean, I haven't seen anything that would convince me that it's the appropriate move to expand the commercial to the north, or I guess that is to the north. Again, I don't have an issue, if you want to have a conversation about changing the neighborhood to CCOM, that, you're close enough to George Washington Boulevard, that could make a lot of sense. But the expansion, I haven't heard anything that gives me a compelling reason to support that at this point.
Commissioner Ure, and I just want to add to that, and I guess just kind of like on a personal note, what I'm feeling about this. I've been on the Planning Commission now for maybe 6 months or something like that. And my first experience with it was coming to a hearing just like this, where higher density was coming into my neighborhood. And I live on an acre, and this higher density was going to be just, half a block from me. And I came, like all of you, and I came and opposed that and was like, look, this is going to affect our neighborhood. It's going to bring down our property values. We have kids in the street. It's, it's very personal because we live there. And as a result, partially of that meeting, I started to kind of like get more involved. And one of the big motivating things for me was just such a frustration with all of the growth. Just such a frustration that I grew up here. I've lived here my whole life, basically. And the growth has certainly affected the quality of life for me. And so my question was, how do we intentionally grow? How do we do this? And maybe the Planning Commission is a way I can kind of like start understanding. And I'm still new, but some things that have really helped me to understand this are, first, we have to have more places with high density, because if we don't, our kids can't live here. I've got a 20-year-old, she cannot afford to get into a home here. Our kids are literally going to have to move away if we don't have more affordable housing, and nobody wants it in their area. So what we have to do is look at, where are there big arteries? Where are there big streets that can handle that? And we have to park it down near that. And it just so happens that there are big arteries right here in this corner, and there's another one going in here in this blue dotted line. So that's one thing that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know how to think about that. Another thing is that there's a lot of research that shows that when we bring commercial into residential areas, that actually ends up benefiting those areas in the long run, and it decreases traffic throughout because you're not driving as far to go get to places. So these big old neighborhoods where it's just a sea of homes and there's no commercial, like in Little Valley, they just have that one little pocket. So many people wish that they had a big grocery store, that they had some kind of big property out there to anchor those stores and to bring more people, to bring more commercial into their area. But another thing about commercial is that it brings in property taxes. It brings in a lot of sales tax, and those taxes direct effect on your taxes. And that was another thing that I didn't quite have my head around that. And so we all kind of have this incentive to bring in higher density housing in an appropriate way, to bring in commercial in an appropriate way, and none of us want it in our backyard. So now that I'm on this side of it, it's more like a balancing of all these interests. There are these clear interests that everybody has, and how do we bring those together and balance them out as a community? And I think that's especially important as we're growing so fast. Like, we're barely staying in front of it, and it's frustrating, but what do? Do we tell people you can't sell your land? Do we tell them you can't use your land for that? So maybe we can be more intentional with our zoning and our general plan, and maybe the general plan does need some updates. It's been a while. But at the end of the day, it's difficult. There's a balancing of interests that all of us have an incentive in getting it right. And at the end of the day, we all have to give things up. We all have to kind of like move and flow with this. And so now what's changed for me, just this probably is too much personal information, but what's changed for me is when I see this development going into my neighborhood, I kind of have a softer spot for it. It's kind of like, I want a place for my kids to live. And these are starter homes and condos and stuff. And it kind of feels like, or not condos, but townhomes. And I'm like, yeah, I get it now. And it feels a little bit better. And so hopefully that can, make a difference. And hopefully seeing that the general plan has this big additional street coming in here that's going to handle a lot of that traffic makes a difference. And knowing that somewhere we have to put a demarcation point, we have to go from very low density to low density, and from low density to medium density. That has to happen somewhere between where it is right now and basically at that blue line. And so it's never going to be fun to have that happen. But we have to back up and look at this whole big picture and the way things are unfolding and growing, so we have to grow in a reasonable way. So all of that said, those are just the things that if I were in your shoes, I now that I'm kind of like have a little bit of experience up here, I'm like, oh, okay, I can kind of see there's more interests to weigh in here. But as for me, I kind of agree with, I agree with the other two commissioners. I don't think we should be pushing the commercial further up into that neighborhood. I think it's fine where it currently is. And whether it's CCOM or NCOM, I feel like, I don't know that that's going to matter that much, but I do think we have an interest in our community in having commercial and in having it next to arteries. I think that's in most of the community's best interest. Maybe not the people right next to it. Maybe it's not in their best interest. But again, we have to back up and look at the whole thing and try to find how it balances. So that's kind of my thought. I will be interested in seeing what's proposed to the west of the commercial and how they're going to finish building out that residential, how we're going to appropriately buffer that. And I just don't think we should be pushing the commercial into the residential that far north. So that was very long, but that's my thought.
And thank you for your time. I don't know if anyone else needs,
Well,
or if you want to say anything
just
else.
one thing about the commercial, Lance Richards is a commercial developer, and he's basically saying that the depth of that is what they need. And so that's the reason, like, if we shorten it up, then it becomes less marketable as a commercial piece. And so that's the reason that we went that way. And so that's.
What's the depth of it now? That, I mean, we're expanding, but we're expanding to 650. We're not expanding 650 additional feet?
No,
Or
the total
650 feet?
And I'm trying to remember.
386.
Maybe it's not even 650, maybe it was.
Approximate.
So it seems like we would need to know what can be done.
So it's 200 feet.
So, I mean, if it's more depth that you need, and again, you might need width and depth, but if you go along, you know, the future proposed road and go further up, that's a lot more palatable. It's on the west side where it punches the neighborhood. That's the hardest part of it.
So maybe he could come make the case to us about why those additional feet would make it. Maybe we can back up, look at it and have a discussion, but.
Neighborhood more and keep it along.
And the problem we have with that is that's not the step that we're in. No, you know, I'm not arguing here, but yeah, but I agree. I mean, I'd almost rather see it as a PUDC, so that you could actually tell what was going in and change it. But they're not asking for that, and that's the scary part about it is we don't know what's going on. We know it can't be a big box store, you know, but the other stuff, I mean, if it was a neighborhood commercial or the PUDC, we could see what was going in and see how it was and see how it affected up against these neighbors. It might not be a big deal, but that's not what we're asking for here.
Well, it's because it's in the general plan, it's not the zone change. That would be the.
It still could be a PUDC.
You'll still see it again in the zone change.
Right.
And that's when we'll see the plan.
That's true. I missed that spot.
There are options with the next step. You know, this is general plan. Next step is zone change. They can ask to propose C1, C2, or a PUD. So there's options there.
And again, Jason, just give me my 2 cents. I mean,
no,
I think where you propose to go low density is fine. Where you propose to go medium density on Gully Way could work, but I think that the Rocky Ridge portion needs to say residential and would be a good place for the medium density as well. My big thing is, more than anything, is pushing the commercial up into the Rocky Ridge thoroughfare. I think that's.
Where's
Rocky Ridge?
Rocky Ridge or Rolling Ridge?
Whatever it's called. Sorry, close enough.
Rolling Rock. We're both wrong.
I was close.
Ridge.
Anyway, that
Rolling
portion,
Ridge.
I mean, both that and Galilee Way, or just one of them. I mean, could be your medium, I mean, whatever. But that's not the real issue. The real issue is commercial, the resident. That's the bigger problem.
Other challenge is that not yet determined and not owned by this applicant space, because Rolling Ridge could connect to Mountain Ridge in just a loop, right?
Right.
But we've also talked tonight about Rolling Ridge maybe being a cul-de-sac, and then that leaves Mountain Ridge either as a cul-de-sac or even just with the wall right at the end of Rolling Ridge Drive. And so the final planning of those roads needs that other property owner to be part of that discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys can make a motion.
This is Commissioner Anderson. I'll make a motion to deny G-25-07, request to amend the general plan use map from very low density to low density and medium density, and from low density to commercial com, and from non-com to CCOM, located at Antigua Lane and George Washington Boulevard.
Just amend to recommend denial tonight.
Recommend denial, excuse me.
Just for the folks here, on general plan amendments, the planning commission is a reviewing and recommending body. There will be a second hearing at the city council where a decision is made. So tonight's purpose is to hear all of your input and feedback, give you some of their response, and then send a recommendation to a meeting at the city council next week. And so you'll have another chance to come and possibly be heard if the mayor allows that, and that's when the decision will be made.
Could I request a table so Lance Richards could actually discuss the commercial more adequately?
It's always, we've always allowed applicants to the opportunity to request
When
it.
would you rather table it to?
When do you want to table it to?
You need.
We have to have a date.
I don't know. Lance actually had a medical emergency, and I don't know quite how long it is.
The reason why we ask for a
I-
date is
I
just
know-
for these
I
folks
know.
to be able to follow the process.
I know, that's why I've got to.
Mr. Kurz, did you have a
I
question
apologize.
while he's looking at his calendar? Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
The difference is the decision then will be a decision, not a recommendation. And it's not a public hearing like tonight's is per state statute. We have an obligation, if a land use applicant wants to change the general plan, to let the public come and have a public hearing. The city council meeting won't be published as a public hearing. The mayor and city council are very generous in allowing folks that will be like you are tonight. You're thoughtful, considerate timing, and direct. And so I would guess you have a good chance of also sharing at that meeting if you show up.
Can I step out and just
It'll
call
be
him
March
really fast
18th.
so I can find out his date?
So 1 month, just so you know, would be March 18th, or 2 weeks would be March 4th.
Am I to understand that you will pass this on to the city council, they make the decision?
That's correct. There are some land use items where the planning commission is the deciding body. There's others where they are a recommending body. Tonight, on general plan amendments, they are a recommending body. And so the city council will watch and listen to this and then have their own chance to make the decision. That meeting will be next Wednesday. Unless this is tabled, then it'll be at least 1 week after whenever the tabling date gets set to. Very much allowed to appear at that. It's a public meeting. Every one of you is allowed to come and be there. The only difference is it's not noticed as a public hearing. So you're not guaranteed a opportunity to talk. I also am the attorney for the city council, and they always let people that are like you folks tonight talk, because you're careful with your comments, you're direct in where you're talking about. And so I think you'd all have a chance if you showed up.
So just so you all know what's happening right now is I had made a motion to recommend denial. The applicant had asked if he can talk to his client to see if we can table it, or basically give them 2 or 4 weeks or whatever, where they can come back and change it and present something different for us to look at. So he may ask to do that, or they may say just recommend denial, and if that happens, then it goes to city council. If they ask to table it, then they'll go back and come up with something different and bring back.
And that's not uncommon. The planning commission doesn't have to grant a tabling, but generally, when the applicant requests it, it's something we do if it's within reasonability. Mr. Smith?
I'd request a month.
Bonnie, this is Commissioner Anderson. I'll the motion then. And the motion to table.
Just add in there at request of the applicant.
Request of the applicant to table G-25-07 till the March 18th Planning Commission meeting.
Commissioner Davis seconds that motion.
Commissioners, will you just indicate whether you also want to table the public hearing? If you would allow the public to come and also have a chance to comment on whatever changes might come in that meeting.
Well, we're not going to know any changes. I mean,
I think that's the purpose of the tabling, right?
On the table, and he'll come back with something different.
He's going to come back to answer us something, but I mean, do we want to have the
Typically,
whole
and I'll just,
public hearing all over again after
typically,
that?
my recommendation is if the item that had a public hearing gets tabled, I recommend that you also specify that the public hearing will also be continued to the tabled date, because if they do bring different details, it would give the public a chance that are in attendance tonight to comment on those if they wanted to.
Can I ask a follow-up on that? Ed? If we table it, is the applicant allowed to bring a different application next time? Or would he have to withdraw right now and then actually bring a different one next time?
Staff decision, if it's within the general parameters of what we're looking at, we generally allow it to be tabled. If it's change, we would probably ask them to submit.
Got it. Thanks.
Yeah, I say, yeah, we can do that as well. So we'll continue the public hearing on the 18th.
Includes continuing the recommendation as well as the public hearing.
Yes.
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 Oh, okay.
Second and yes.
I didn't hear the second. All right, we have a first by Commissioner Anderson and a second by Commissioner Davis. All right, individual voting. Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well, so we will table this for 1 month on the 18th. But you will not get noticed on it. So
this is the notice
this
tonight.
is your notice. Where we table it, you won't get another mailed out notice. This is it.
And the process would be the 18th would in theory have another motion that would either recommend denial, recommend approval, and then it would go to a city council decision the week after that. So that's, if you want to plan your Wednesdays, sketch those ones into your book out there.
So the meeting next week wouldn't happen?
Correct. The city council will have a meeting next week, but it won't have this item on their agenda.
So back here again, March 18th.
You're not compelled, but you're invited.
That's what I'm asking. Okay.
All right, item 5 is adjournment. I'll look for a motion to adjourn this meeting.
Commissioner Anderson, I move to adjourn.
Commissioner Davis seconds the motion.
I have a first by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. We'll start the land use meeting here shortly. All right, welcome to the land use meeting for February 18th, 2026. Item 1 on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. We'll look for a motion for item 1.
This is Commissioner Ure. I move that we approve the agenda for our meeting February 18th, 2026.
It's Commissioner Davis, second.
I have a first by Commissioner Ure and a second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor? Aye. Approval of the minutes from the February 4th, 2026 meeting.
It's Commissioner Davis. I move that we approve the minutes for Land Use Authority from February 4th.
Commissioner Ure, second.
I have a first by Commissioner Davis, a second by Commissioner Ure. All in favor? Aye. Item 3 is declaration of abstentions or conflicts. Does anyone have any tonight? All right. Item 4A is a final plat approval for a minor subdivision for the Mustang Pass subdivision located at the corner of 595 West and 1860 North. Applicant is Craig Coates. I'll turn the time over to Sebastian.
All right, the applicant is requesting approval of a minor subdivision plat for the Mustang Pass subdivision located at the corner of 595 West and 1860 North. This is a 4-lot subdivision covering a total of 1.91 acres. The zoning for this development is residential 110 with the residential 110 zone surrounding the development and some open space to the east on that map there. Staff has reviewed the proposal and find it conforms to the standards set forth in the zoning regulations and ordinances in the city. Staff recommends the Land Use Authority approve the final plat for the Mustang Pass minor subdivision based on the following findings and condition in this report. That concludes staff report, and the applicant's here so they can answer more questions.
Thank you.
Yep.
So is that just a shared driveway coming in there to split that? Is that what that is? Off the knuckle of that cul-de-sac? It looks kind of weird.
Yeah, Craig Coates with the lines, it's just an alley, but it's a shared driveway. But both lot lines go all the way to the street, so it's like 2 flag lots. That's what it is.
Okay. You guys lost? Thanks, Craig. Do you have any questions?
No, it looks like it finishes out the area as well, from what I can
All
tell.
right, this is a public hearing. And we'll open up this to a public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this. All right, we'll close it. What's that?
This is just your final plat approval.
Oh, final plat approval. Sorry. Next one. All right, we'll look for a motion.
This is Commissioner Davis. I'll make a motion to approve the final plat for a minor subdivision for the Mustang Pass subdivision located at the corner of 895 West and 1860 North, subject to conditions and staff report.
Before you vote, can I ask the representative if he's the one that chose the name Mustang Pass?
Can we vote first?
It's just being funny. I like it.
To tell you the truth, we looked at the quad map and there was a trail up there called Mustang Pass. Thought it looked cool.
Awesome. I assumed it was connected to one of those little things.
Yeah, it just had to do with the quad map in the area. Had a trail that was called that. That's why we went with it. So.
Commissioner Anderson, I second.
I was first by Commissioner Davis, second by Commissioner Anderson. Individual voting, Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. Item 5A is the final plat for Salente Phase 1, 1A partial amendment. Applicant's Craig Coates. We'll turn the time over to Sebastian.
All
Right, so the applicant is requesting approval of a partial final plat amendment for the Solente Village 1 Phase 1A Amendment B, located at Colima Road east of Solente Parkway. The reason for this partial final plat amendment is to remove the easements from lots 113 to 116, 140 to 145, and lots 150 and 151. So that map there just shows, I kind of highlighted the current location of the proposed easements, and then if you scroll down, they're just, they're just moving east of the development. The applicant can speak more on that. So yeah, no other changes are proposed at this time. Staff has reviewed the proposed partial final plat amendment and finds it conforms to the approved zoning of the development and is in compliance with the ordinance of the city. Staff recommends the Land Use Authority approve the partial final plat amendment for the Solente Village 1 Phase 1A Partial Amendment B based on the following findings and conditions in this report. That concludes the staff report. And if you have questions, the applicant can answer them for you.
Thank you.
Craig Coase with Alliance Consulting, representing the Solente development. So the purpose of this is really the water lines were relocated to the east and so we just moved them, and so now these lots wanted to get those easements off the plot now. So there was some old power line easements on the right between lot 50 and 51 and the main water line, and all those have been relocated to the roads and streets and outside. So they're doing an amendment to clean up, basically is what it is. But nothing changed on the plat besides the easements were eliminated and relocated to the east. So, okay.
I would just add that the easement project was at the request of and in collaboration with the city, and so it was something that they did to respond to city issues up there. So we appreciated that.
Thank you. This is the public hearing portion. Does anyone here would like to speak to this? Okay, we'll close the public hearing portion of this and look for a motion.
Commissioner Anderson, I move to approve the final plat for Solente Village Phase 1, Village 1 Phase 1A Partial Amendment B with the findings and conditions outlined by staff.
Commissioner Ure, second.
First by Commissioner Anderson, and second by Commissioner Ure. Individual voting, Commissioner Anderson.
Aye.
Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. Item 5B is a preliminary plat approval for the Amara at Coral Canyon subdivision located at approximately Countryway and Telegraph Road. The applicant is Cole West. Turn it over to Sebastian.
The applicant is requesting approval of a preliminary plat for the Amara at Coral Canyon subdivision located near Countryway and Telegraph Road. This subdivision is a proposed affordable housing single-family development that would consist of 212 lots on approximately 38.69 acres of land. This is a three-phase development, with the development first occurring towards the east and ending towards the west. Moreover, the lot sizes for this development would range in size from about 4,500 square feet to 5,500 square feet, with a total density of 5.48 dwelling units an acre. The zoning designation at this location is planned community development, with the planned community development zone surrounding the entire development. The proposed subdivision is in conformance with the zoning, and the request meets the subdivision requirements and other city ordinances for this location. Staff has reviewed the request and recommends the Land Use Authority approve the preliminary plat for the Amara at Coral Canyon subdivision based on the findings and conditions in this report. That's it.
Thank you.
Chairman, if I might, there's some context here. So I think it was 2 legislative sessions ago, the legislature and other state leaders put pressure on SITLA, the School Institutional Trust Line Administration, as well as other pressure on other entities to try and encourage / compel them to bring projects that weren't all just luxury housing. And so Sitla came to the city and said, we'd like to do this, but we do need to do housing that isn't luxury in a market that's got luxury land prices. Sitla requested the city to cooperate and collaborate with them. And so part of this application tonight, there is a contract being worked on that would go to the city council that would define certain concessions as well as certain covenants. And the concessions would be from the city. The covenants would be from Sitla's developer. Covenants such as a deed restriction that disallows renting of any more than 20% of the total unit. So 80% have to be owner occupied. Covenants about the price that the Sitla developer would be able to charge, and there'd be a cap on that. And so the difficult thing is those are kind of market influencing covenants in the contract. In light of the atmosphere in the state of Utah and the leaders' requests, Washington City's leaders have tried to embrace that concept and work with the school trust land administration that's a large landholder in our city to see if something can happen. And so what you're seeing is the first rendition of that concept. And part of that concept is to locate this in an area that probably will never have luxury housing anyway because of its proximity to the landfill and some of those other things. And so with you as the planning commission, any thoughts and feelings and feedback you can provide to the city leaders tonight would be very helpful, because this is the first blush at it, but there's been a lot of work put into this to get it this far. It wouldn't have happened if it was just the city's idea. Really it was Sitla and the city in response to this request from leadership in Salt Lake City to try and find something that we could say, hey, look, here's what we did in Washington County in response to your request.
These, I don't know if you know this or.
I do, I'm writing the contract.
Okay. So this is a PCD, but we don't have anything going on. Are they just individual lots being sold?
Single family homes.
Build, or are they only built by one person?
I believe that an auxiliary of Coal West will be the entity that has the contract to develop and build. There'll be single-family lots that'll have individual ownership and single-family residential homes on them. Adam, is that all accurate?
I guess my question with that is, normally on this, if it's all being built by one person, we'd have like rendering elevations, et cetera. And this, we just have lots. That's why I was wondering, like, why is it just lots?
So you're wanting to see the structures?
No, I'm just curious what's the product we're putting in here, though.
It's going to be a detached townhome based off the street frontage, 40-foot wide. They're forced into just a detached townhome product.
Kind of like what Salisbury has down on the
Just
whatever.
east to their previous development, similar to this as well.
Adam Allen with American Consulting and Engineering. So I mean, they have two different product home widths, right? They have a house that they want to fit on a 50-foot wide lot. They have a house that they want to fit on the 40-foot minimum wide lot. They'll be a little bit nicer than a detached townhome. It'll be nice that they do have their own yard, right? Like the stuff that's down there.
I think detached townhome is trying to describe the shape of the structure.
Yeah.
There's no common ownership between them.
There's no common ownership in between them. They'll all be, owner occupied. So, 80% of them at least.
And I maybe should, I didn't finish the city's concession. So in exchange for Sitla and their developer reaching some of those price points and characteristics of affordability, the city has offered concessions on things like roadway improvement. For example, if it was a luxury development, the city would say, like, you need to come and build out Landfill Road, give it curb gutter, and the city said, look, we'll take care of that when we're able to. Another one would be to relocate the intersection of Landfill Road. I guess it's Countryway now, the north reach of Countryway and Telegraph. But the traffic planning says line those up with Coral Canyon Boulevard. But again, to have that infrastructure lift paid for by a project where we're squeezing them on their margins was one of the concessions. The city said, look, we'll take care of that when we can at some other time. And so the city's essentially conceded on developer exactions. Again, in an effort to collaborate with the state's request and with Sitla, who's expressed willingness to try and work on a project of this nature. And the city's leaders have wanted to support and see if something like that could happen in our city. And this is the best, first rendition that's come out of the process.
So I guess one question I have,
we also have a Sitla representative tonight that, if you want to talk.
Well, my question is more along the lines of, the other end of Countryway Road has the issue of when we put a bunch of housing, we got all the landfill trucks and this and that, and it's a big thorn in everyone's side. My only concern would be this backside was the only viable way, and now we'll have housing on both sides of the road. That's my only, I don't know, there's not really a way around it, but I'm not opposed to this at all. I'm just.
You just opened up a
Stating
can of
the
worms.
elephant in the room here, because we're like getting hammered on the other end of it, other end of this road. So I'm like, now we'll have housing on both ends of the road, and it's going to be an issue on both sides. That's all.
Yeah, that was actually a question I had is, do we want to create a little buffer zone along Country Way right there? We've got these lots backing right up to that road. And you got
My only
hundreds
concern
of
with
trucks,
just
dirt, dumping trash, like there's all kinds of stuff going on that road. And here it's a little different because it's more like a coming to the nuisance issue where it's like, what you're getting into here and
The
it's
last one
specifically
did
for
too.
accessible housing and there's all that, but like maybe a little bigger of a barrier along that road, is my only thought.
I think it's their backyard, and
Yeah.
the last people
Yeah.
knew what they were moving into too. They just elected not to pay attention to it. So, the
the
landfill
other one's a
there's,
little harder because you got community on both sides.
Yeah.
Of the road. So to them, it feels like you're right in the middle of the community.
yeah, and this is on the outside where it comes in. I like it. I think it's a good idea.
No, I do too. I was just.
No, I understand. Yeah, 100%. I like it. I think it's a good move for what they're trying to accomplish. I like that it's detached, single-family homes, that they're not gonna be rentals. I like that. Once a single family buys them and can move out, then they can obviously rent them, but they're not selling them to be rented.
Yeah, and I think that as far as my understanding, and Dad would probably know, I think that the covenants, that's gonna be mandated by the HOA as to whether or not how much can be rented at any given time, even in the future.
Is that what it is?
The city expects that to be written in a contract as well.
Yeah, so I think that's like the HOA is gonna have to help mandate that.
The renters.
Owner occupied? Is that the limit? That's
80% must be owner occupied.
So.
I guess one question with this then is how, and you probably don't have any, just some food for thought. If we're looking at affordable housing, all my kids are trying to figure out how to housing, so I get this, but like my daughter and her husband, they just bought a little two-bath condo, and ironically, the thing that kills them the most is their HOA dues.
Yeah.
Because their disposable income is so small that like those HOA dues are just brutal. So where it has to be an HOA, I would just say put some thought into making sure the HOA doesn't just grow and grow and grow.
And that is some of the things that we've done, and we worked with these guys on, like we got, typically Coral Canyon has landscape buffers on the streets everywhere, and so we went to the typical public street cross section where they don't have a landscape buffer, that then they have to pay the HOA fees to come by and maintain. So they've been looking at trying to do some of those things with that. There are two things that we would like to ask before you guys vote. One is, there's two things that were added as items on there. One is that we can't submit construction drawings until after is approved. Do you know when that's going to city council, the contract?
The contract, to get it finalized, to get on to the next meeting if possible.
Okay, so their ask would be can they submit construction drawings but no approval of construction drawings until that's approved?
So that stops the legal stop, so I wouldn't put it to this body.
Okay.
We're just working hard to get it ready to go, but that contract does have to be approved by the city council.
No, we meant that we could submit this says we can't submit construction drawings.
And what I'm saying is that stop on your process is legal directed, not planning commission. And so I wouldn't want them to put it in a motion tonight.
Yeah.
That relates to your plat. Your plat should get a vote up or down based on what it says, not a legal condition that's got you held up on drawings.
Then our second thing would be, is one of the conditions is that they have the amenity put in by 1/3 of the units. We'd ask that they get it by 2/3, because they'll put in a much nicer amenity if they don't have to attach it to the financing of the first phase, because we have to do the lift station, all the offsites. There's a lot of offsites. So if they can build that farther in, then they'll put in a much nicer amenity than if they have to try to attach that to the very first phase. And so that's their question. That's their ask on that one is, they agree they don't want to push it off too far, but based on where they're trying to hit, what they're trying to do with their financing and everything, and the fact that there is still a fairly significant amount of offsites that are going to happen on this, that they'd ask that at 2/3 they could have that in at that point, so that they could finance it in a further phase and put in a nicer amenity.
So this is one of those conditions in the agreement. Are you saying it would be completed by 2/3 of the residential units being built out?
Yeah.
But you're saying the justification there is financing. Could you?
Right now, they have about $15,000 to $20,000 worth of offsites per unit that they have to finance in on the very first phase. And so that's what they're saying, is like, if they have to build the amenity with the first, basically that'd be the first phase almost, is when they'd have to put that in, that they can't finance, the financing they're gonna be able to get to do that isn't gonna work to put in an amenity they'd like to put in. So they'd have to put in a much more passive amenity. If they can push it off till like.
Does phase one show the amenity right now?
Well, it's kind of attached in it because we have to put the lift station in, and that's the low point.
Just trying to clarify, what I see right now, that outer phase is phase one, that's closest. Okay, and then phase two is the interior.
Yep.
Then phase three is the end.
Yep.
And so you're saying the condition would be amenities completed by the full build out of phase 1 and 2.
Basically, or
2/3 of the lots.
2/3 of the lots, yeah.
Because 2/3 of the lots might be before phase 2's finished, when you just spitball on the total quantity of lots.
So, phase 1 and 2 would be ideal, right? Then they can make sure they have it finished by then, instead of the COs of the 30% because, that's kind of what they're asking, is to get a longer time on that.
The reasons in the past why the city council has wanted to make sure this is a term they negotiate is they end up with a room full of the first 2 phases that are saying, where do our kids go and what do they do, right?
Right.
Now, in that case, you say, just down the trail, go have fun on the city trail system. But you're right. A lot of them would buy believing that there would be an amenity someday.
And there will be an amenity someday. It's just.
It's just a matter as to when. And then I like having the motion include something on that because it helps us administer that time frame. Initial term was 1/3. He's asking for 2 discretion.
The one problem with that, again, because we've seen like Coral Canyon is a good example. You have a recession and suddenly you have an entire community where everyone's mad and he's never get built. And then somebody else picks it up on the back end and suddenly it's a different amenity, it doesn't get built. That's the problem, is you open up a can of worms that could possibly come back.
Right. But I think that'd be part in the contract they're talking about and in the motion for this approval. So
What about, you finish phase 1, you got financing for phase 2. So in phase 2, you're gonna have a separate set of financing. What if you build the amenities with phase 2? So that way it's not in phase 1's budget, but it's in phase 2's budget. I know what they're asking if it can be in phase 3's budget. I get that, but.
That's a her question.
Yep. So I'm Courtney McCray. I'm from Coal West. We essentially do want to attach it to phase 2. So we just want to be able to attach it to phase 2 financing. So it will be built out by the end of phase 2. So it will not be pushed off until phase 3. So I think.
But I guess my question is, if it's in phase 2, can you build it at the start of phase 2?
Yes. We'll
So
start.
that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. As soon as we get our financing to start moving dirt for phase 2, then we'll have the money to start building the amenity. So.
Say instead of a 1/3 or 2/3 or whatever the community would say, build the amenities, at the start of phase 2.
Okay. Yep, I'm fine with that. Just the 33% was not going to work financially for us, so.
I think it's easier by phases.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I like that. Back to the barrier between that and the road. I mean, that road is so busy with huge trucks. Are we going to put a big wall there? I mean, what are we going to do right there?
Yeah, so I mean, right now, I think we've got a landscape buffer. I mean, the landscape buffer is something, it's only like 20 feet wide, right? It's not, and then we'll have a 6-foot wall. And then those houses are actually kind of depressed down in, so it'll even be higher, right? Because those houses will have a 4 to 6 foot retaining wall behind them, plus a wall on top of them. As it sits right now, they're trying to maximize what they can put in there with what.
The cost, yeah, I get
Right,
it.
costs and all that stuff, so it's just a factor of maintaining costs. And the reason why we did only go on the one side is because on the other side, then it starts to be even, right, there's just more development costs on that side, so.
So what you're describing potentially is like up to 10 feet of sound deadening if the homes, if they're gonna be lower, 4 feet of tension, and then you got 6 feet of privacy.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's currently how we have it planned right now, because we have to kind of come down in.
Kind of taper down.
Yeah. So it'll be a different scenario than what's going on the other side of Country Way, but, I mean.
Yeah.
The more land
Yeah,
they give as buffers, right, the more money that the houses will end up being.
This one's a lot more intentional. Personally, I love this. I love that Sitla and our community, our leaders have all gotten involved. I mean, I don't love that the state made us, but I think I love that we're doing this. I think it's really cool.
I mean, that is one of the biggest concerns that the developer had, is how to make sure they're trying to buffer that property.
Okay,
So,
okay, that's good to know.
So one question that, I don't see anything about the HOA and stuff in here. I mean, I know that's probably in your developer agreement, but
no.
I would want to make sure that it's not like part of the main Coral Canyon, like it's got its own separate HOA that keeps it minimal for these people.
It's a different
Yeah,
HOA.
so we actually, all of the Coral Canyon from Solis on, which is basically the last 4 or 5 years of development, we split off to the Cottonwood Community Association. And then this will be a sub-neighborhood, but just for comparison, the Rise Townhomes, which are just down Telegraph from there, their HOA monthly fee is $105. And that's, what do we have over there, like, how many units? 135 or something like that. This is going to be 212, very similar amenities. So I think the cost will end up being well within the $100 range, if not slightly lower, if we can get it to full build out with similar amenities.
Anything in the CCNRs to kind of limit, I mean, you know, HOAs are, especially when we get turned over to home associations, stuff that just has creep, and it just grows and grows, and more rules and more fees and this, and I mean, I've been on 5 HOA boards, and it's like, it's just this, it just grows, you know, and it's hard to keep it contained. I mean, I'd almost want to make sure, put in your CCNRs, you get some sort of language that keeps it from growing, keep from adding additional. I think that's a huge problem in Washington County in particular with keeping housing affordable, the HOA. Especially because typically how development works is you just ask your attorney for, you know, some CCNRs, they do a boilerplate of the most, you know, aggressive, you know, HOA that they do. They record and nobody thinks about it until suddenly it just starts to.
I can say from Coal West perspective, while we're the declarant, myself, our VP, and our attorney are the board of all of our HOAs, so we're
But
very involved.
Where does it go when you guys are out of it? That's all I'm gonna say is when you guys are gone.
Right, but I mean.
I'll
to your-
comment on that. So when we administer plats and final plat signatures, the legal department reviews any community that's gonna have common area. We verify that their entity's legally created and in good standing. And we verify that they do have at least a draft of the CCNRs that'll be signed when they commence. The challenge that exists legally with what you're asking is once they've set off to be their own community, the city doesn't get to dictate the terms of their CCNRs anymore. And so make sure they have the best CCNRs ever, they can change those.
I know that. I'm just trying to put a bug in people's ear to say, on lots of these things I've done, communities and HOAs of my own, I just think that's something that especially where we're trying to make stuff affordable, it negatively impacts people a few years down the road.
Right. And I can speak from experience. We've maintained steady fees on all of our communities for the last several years. I think the most any have increased is $5 over the last several years. And that's strictly just because of the cost of doing business within the community. But I know that once we turn it over to the community, obviously it's out of our hands at that point, but if they're trying to keep it affordable for themselves, I would hope that they would maintain the same level of standards.
Just.
Oh, I completely get it, but I would hope that the
I
homeowners
was the
would,
president of an HOA of a development that I did. I kept the dues under $100 for over 10 years, and I reduced them every single year. And the minute I left the community and it was out, the new board came in and they quadrupled the dues overnight. So I'm just saying. I know that has nothing to do with your plan.
The new board is elected by the owners of those lots, and so, yeah. And that's why we don't get to dictate their CCNRs once that new board takes over control. As long as Coal West is the declarant, our contract with them can govern. But and I don't know what your percentage is in your CCNRs, but at some point they're obligated to give control to the owners that now have met a significant percentage of ownership to take over control. What is it at, like?
I don't remember what it is either. It's pretty high.
It's usually at the highest rate the state allows, because
Exactly,
that's the best for administration.
So yeah, it'll be towards the tail end of the development, but even then, again, I would really hope that as a homeowner within the community, they themselves would not want to be paying higher dues. So in theory, that's how it should go, but I can't make any guarantees. And I don't know, I can ask our attorney if there's yet any language that can be added to the CCNRs, but even if we did, if a new board comes in, they can change the CCNRs too, so.
One other detail I'd hope to discuss, because I believe this is one of the terms of the agreement, is I just want to clarify that the areas that are shown as green aren't water-using grass. Is that correct?
No.
Because I believe one of the agreements was that it would be a water conservative development as well. So they're open space, that's what it shows, not green
That's showing
grass.
open space, and I've tried and tried and tried, and I've talked to my guys 1,000 times, like, stop showing green, start showing brown. But it keeps popping up every time I turn around, green's back on a plat, and it's back in the city's hands, and I'm like, all right, they're gonna ask me about it.
I'm doing it just to clarify on the recording that
that
if
is
anybody
not
sees
the
that and assumes they're entitled to green lawns in those places, that is not what the exhibit shows.
No.
I have a question along those lines. Well, not really along those lines, but what do we know about the property to the north of that that's got that sitting body of water there? Sometimes there's water there, sometimes there's not.
That's Sitla land. There's two different water sources that go there, runoff water from the Coral Canyon area. Some of that's runoff from the golf course. The city also has a water treatment plant on the opposite wash on the east side of Telegraph, where the city receives raw water from Quail Creek Reservoir, and the city treats it and adds it to the potable system at that location. And there's sometimes runoff from there. And so that body of water is a combination of storm flows as well as flows from the golf course and or the water treatment plant. I believe that Habitat folks worry about it as being a what's the word I'm looking for?
Aviary, like a plant.
A wetland.
Yeah.
Wetland area, and that's why they're staying away from it, I assume. There's
in a
also
floodplain, right, it's got the 100-year floodplain line, so it'll fill up with water if there's ever a big 100-year event, so you try not to do anything really in those
big
areas.
cloudbursts, there's a lot of water go through there.
Yeah.
And so it's got wetland, it's also got some old fill piles up towards Telegraph that nobody really wants to reopen, whatever the story is there. And so between floodway, wetland, and old dirt moving, I believe the Sitla's not planning to do much there for the short term, midterm, maybe long term.
There's not really anything you can do in that area.
Yeah, it's
basically it'll sit like that forever.
That's good.
But that's
Commissioners, I have one comment to add in as well, just in regards to the trails. This development is proposing to tie into where the existing trail dead ends and is going to connect further to the northeast, which is just a huge connection, great amenity that citizens, this development can access and utilize and continue to connect. I did want to get some clarification here. I spoke to our Leisure Services Assistant Director, and in our pre-development conversations, your submittal, Adam and Courtney, we discussed connecting under Telegraph Road, and Paul just wanted some clarification. Are we still planning to connect underneath Telegraph?
We're in the process of looking at what that would look like if we can make it go through those two culverts. So as we've said before, if it's something that's easy and we can make happen without having to do some sort of major, stuff there, then that's, yeah. So
You're
we're
willing to work with the
yeah,
Parks
we're willing to
Department
work with Public Works and everybody else, as we stated before. We're gathering information on that culvert and the floodway and stuff that goes through there and just making sure we're not doing something we shouldn't. So.
I don't think we had our public hearing yet. I'll open this up for a public hearing if there's anyone that would like to speak to it. Okay, I'll close the public hearing portion of this. And look for motion. I like it. I like this project. I think it's gonna be a
Commissioner
good
Anderson,
one.
I'll make a motion to approve preliminary plat for Amara at Coral Canyon subdivision located approximately Countryway and Telegraph Road with the findings and conditions outlined by staff with the changing condition 13 to read instead of amenities shall be completed upon 33% of the homes being completed, but read that the amenities shall be completed at the commencement of phase 2.
Commissioner Davis seconds that motion.
First by Commissioner Anderson, a second by Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Davis. Commissioner Ure.
Aye.
And Commissioner Bullock, I'm an aye as well. Item 6 is adjournment.
Commissioner Davis, I move that we adjourn.
Commissioner second, your second.
First and second, all in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for adding the trail. I was right when I sat down, I was like,